Hello again. So today I'm going to talk about, oh, there's a fly in here. I'm going to talk about fat to protein ratio. This is going to be a quick one because it's not complicated. It feels complicated, but it's not. Everyone wants to know what the optimal fat to protein ratio is. Number one, you should aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. Protein is a building block, so we want to use it as such. We don't want to overeat it. We don't want to end up using protein for energy. We don't want to waste it. That's very expensive. And we also really don't want to undereat protein, because then you are risking your lean muscle. We all want to hold on to muscle and also our skeleton, our frame, our bones. We also need amino acids, protein, to support our neurotransmitters. I don't know why I said it like that. So if you are having mood issues, take a look at how much protein you're eating, because some key nutrients to support your neurotransmitters are going to be tyrosine, vitamin B6, vitamin B12. Like, these are going to support your neurotransmitters and the way that your brain fires off. Your biochemistry, it all boils down to amino acids. So if you're not getting enough protein, then you may be suffering mentally as well. If your hair is falling out, you probably need more protein. If you have poor thyroid health, take a look at your protein. So please don't undereat protein. A good range is 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. Now, the bare minimum amount of protein that we need to support our lean body mass, so in other words, if you never want to tap into your own lean muscle, the bare minimum would be 0.8 times your lean body mass. To come up with what your lean body mass is, first you need to know your body fat percentage. Then you're going to multiply that by your actual weight, and then you're going to get a number, and this is your fat mass. You want to subtract that number from your total weight, and then you end up with your lean mass. So even if you just can guesstimate your body fat percentage, it's not like you have to go get an in-body scan or something like that, a DEXA scan. You don't need to do that. You can just kind of guesstimate. A very lean female would be around 16%. A very lean man is around 12%. And they have lots of visuals, images online where you can guesstimate your body fat percentage. But it's really important to know that bare minimum so that you can hit it. Be sure to hit it every day. I personally will never recommend under 100 grams of protein to anyone, even a 12-year-old. We need protein, okay? So we established how much protein we should be eating, how much fat. This is the lever, and it changes for everyone. Number one, have you been fat adapted? If not, if your goal is to become fat adapted, you will need more fat than protein. So I've worked with people who have been carnivore for 16 years and they're still running on glucose. How can that be possible if you're not eating carbs? I see this all the time, especially on Reddit. I see people saying, if you're not eating carbs, you're burning fat. And I'm sorry, it's not that simple. If you are stuck in a state of fight or flight mode, if you have elevated cortisol, if you're not sleeping at night, if you're overeating protein and you never became fat adapted, there are certain scenarios and situations where you will continue to run on glucose. Your body can make glucose from stored glycogen from protein, but it can also make glucose from the backbone of fat. So your body is going to burn what it learned to burn. And so becoming fat adapted is kind of like riding a bike. The first time you get it, you don't really forget how to ride a bike. But even so, that first time, you're probably going to fall off again. And it might take a little effort to get back on and to ride smoothly. And the longer you do it, the better you get, the easier it is to jump right back on, which is why I can eat 100 grams of carbs and slip right back into ketosis. Very often I don't even slip out of ketosis. But when I first started, there was a time in my keto journey where I couldn't eat more than 30 grams of protein per day without my blood sugar going up to like 130 or 140 via gluconeogenesis. Because of the state of my central nervous system, my hormones, I was in fight or flight mode, so my body was just running on adrenaline. So there are tricks to combat that, but that's not what this video is about. The point that I'm trying to make is that your body needs to learn how to run on fat. And in order to become fat adapted, you must provide enough dietary fat. This is even for people who are overweight. I don't think it's wise to just dive in. Some people can do it. Some people already have that metabolic flexibility that hasn't been destroyed. My mom is one of them. She didn't eat sweets growing up. She used to eat spoonfuls of mustard. Like, my mom was that kid. But my dad, he has a major sweet tooth. And so to become fat adapted, it's really important for him or someone like him to bring in enough dietary fat, exogenous, which means outside of your body. Endogenous is like when you're using your own body fat. Exogenous is coming from the outside. So you have to have enough exogenous dietary fat coming from your diet, coming in while you're also cutting off the carbs and the glucose. That way your body, which is so adaptive and you are fearfully and wonderfully made, your body will say, okay, well, I'm not getting much of this fuel source, but I'm getting a lot of this consistently. And it's going to be like, it would make sense to start to switch my systems. It would make sense to switch to this one. And once that happens, you've learned, you've become fat adapted. And then you can start to pull back the extra dietary fat so that you can tap into your own body fat stores. But first you have to learn. You have to teach your body how to do it. And yes, it's possible to unlearn. It's possible to go through phases where we fall off the wagon and you have to get back into fat adaptation. And like I said, the longer you are fat adapted, the easier it is to get right back into it or right back on the wagon. So for someone who has not been fat adapted, your fat to protein ratio should always be higher fat. This is my personal opinion. All these videos are my personal opinion. And I am not making direct recommendations because I don't know any of you, but these are statements that can apply to everyone. And that's why I'm sharing them, because they are so important. And this topic is just one of the most talked about things ever. I think there's so much confusion because there are a lot of statements like, if you have extra body fat, you don't have to eat extra fat. Yes, that's true. But what is the situation? Is this person sleeping? Has this person been fat adapted? Does this person have hypothyroidism? Does this person have their hair falling out? Well, then they're going to need more fat, even if they have extra fat on their bodies. You have to allow your body to figure it out. Never restrict to get to your goal. It makes sense to be in an energy deficit when you're trying to burn your own body fat, but even so, you shouldn't restrict. I would never recommend someone go below 1,500 calories, ever. There's no need. If you take the time to heal your hormones and build up your resting metabolic rate, you can burn fat without ever feeling like you're cutting. I just feel like people don't know the potential. If we can just cut out the crap, the seed oils and the sugar and the excess carbs and the poor sleep and the poor lifestyle choices, alcohol, all these things are going to blunt fat burning. But if you can embrace living the life that God created us to live with less of that noise and manipulated stuff, you will start to see that your body is just an incredible creation. It'll blow your mind. It blows my mind. So anyways, once you become fat adapted, you can start to pull back on the dietary fat. A 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio, which would be 1 gram of fat for every 1 gram of protein. That's what I mean by 1-to-1 fat to protein. I'm never talking about percentages, always talking about grams. Matching grams would be 1-to-1 fat to protein. So some examples of that would be ribeye steak, bacon, those are 1-to-1 fat to protein. 2-to-1 fat to protein would be an egg yolk, which is 5 grams of fat and 2 grams of protein. So that's double the fat to protein in grams. You get it, hopefully. So a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio on this way of eating without carbs should be a weight loss diet. If you're not burning your own body fat at that, then maybe you're just eating too much. But I think it would be hard to not lose weight at that, honestly. So if your hormones are really healthy and healed. So that's something to think about. Some people do better with higher fat just because they like the benefits for their mood, their cognition. It really helps their sleep. It really helps their skin. They like their digestion better when they're eating higher fat. Everyone's a little bit different, and I will say that it changes. When I first started this, I was at 4-to-1 fat to protein. I was dealing with non-epileptic seizures at one time. I needed those high ketones. Now, there are days where I eat way more protein than fat. And I know that I'm burning fat 100%. My blood sugars are very stable. My energy is great. I don't eat before I go do CrossFit. I'm not starving, and I can eat carbs without my blood sugar spiking as well. So I know that I'm metabolically flexible. I know that my body knows how to switch between the two different fuel sources. That's what metabolic flexibility means. But it's taken a long time to get here, a long time. And I will say that as I go through different seasons of life, like before my period, I would get really ravenous and I would definitely want something really fatty. And then during my period, I would not want that fat. This is because of the hormones changing when we're on our cycles. So these are the tips that I have. There are just so many theories and opinions out there, and honestly, you can work it one way or the other. Robert Sykes, Keto Savage, is a ketogenic bodybuilder. So he does high fat, and even as he goes into cuts, he maintains that high fat, whereas most people would cut most of the fat and then give you some carbs because you're going to lose your energy. So he's a great example of the higher fat to protein ratio, but there are some people who do carnivore and they just cut the extra fat, they're fat adapted, and they get super shredded. Tyler, when he started eating liberal amounts of butter, he got shredded. His abs came out that week. It's because his body needed a little bit more dietary fat to get the permission to burn his own body fat. It was awesome. It is awesome. So leave your questions below. Hopefully this cleared up some confusion for you. And just know that if you are healing, then what's optimal for you should be changing. And also know that there is no right way except for the way that really supports your body in this season of life, wherever you're at.